6-star reads are very hard to come by for me, and I take my 6-star ratings very, very seriously. So let's go through all of my 6-star reads, and this does include some from last year as well. Starting off with my most recent 6-star read is Nocticadia by Kari Lake. One thing about me, I don't remember characters' names in books unless I really, really, really like the book. So that's how I typically know if it's a very good read for me or not. Not only do I remember these characters' names, but I think about them daily since I finished it, and it put me in a really bad reading slump. This book follows Lilia, who goes to Dracadia University to do research on the parasite that killed her mom, and she falls for the professor who is the head researcher on said parasite. Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. This book follows Ari and her 4 best friends who all go to Avix University together. She is secretly in love with one of the best friends, but then he ends up rejecting her, and it's kind of just spiral from there. And that's when we get introduced to Noah, the other main character in the story. And it is beautiful and it is very heartbreaking, and the plot twist in here is insane. And next we have A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. I still think about this book to this day and these characters. And to put this simply, this book follows Bee and Jamie, aka Whiskey. It's a solid 10 years of toxic, horrible communication, but it's absolutely worth it when you get to the end. Up next, we have Exodus by Kate Stewart. This is the second book in the Ravenhood series. This book emotionally destroyed me. I'm gonna include a picture of me after I finish this book. This was the first book to provoke that much emotion out of me, and it literally changed my life, and also has me traumatized to read any of her other books. So with that being said, you should definitely read it. 6 stars. And then, of course, The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This book follows Lemon and Ewan. Basically, Lemon lives in a magical apartment that was once her aunt's, and she has been told her entire life that sometimes the apartment can take her 7 years back in time. But she never really believed it until it happened to her, which is when she meets Ewan. And they have to basically make their way back to each other in current day when they are living completely different lives at that point. It gave me a whole new perspective on life and not taking moments for granted. I loved this. And next, Pictures of You by Emma Gray. I know you guys are probably sick of me talking about this book, but it's 6 stars for a reason. Our main character, Evie, wakes up in the hospital after a horrible accident that ends up killing her husband, and she has lost about 13 years of memory. So she thinks she's 16 at the time when she wakes up, and she does not realize that she has cut off everybody in her life. She accidentally reconnects with one of her old friends, Drew, and he helps her navigate her life going forward and rekindling all of her relationships with her friends and family. And they also obviously have a little bit of love interest going on in there. And I know you guys are so tired of hearing me talk about these books, but I will never shut up about them. This is literally my Roman Empire series, okay? Binding and Keeping 13, these were my 6-star reads in that series. These 2 books in the series follow Shannon and Johnny, and Shannon, unfortunately, was born into a very, very toxic family where she is mistreated, and Johnny and his family end up taking her under their wing, and there is a lot of emotional damage that happens in these books, but I definitely would recommend going into it with an open mind. I know a lot of people don't want to read it because it is about teenagers, but it's so much deeper than that. And I would also maybe check your trigger warnings because there are some deep topics that get handled in here. And then we have Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I read this book last year. However, I think about it almost daily. Our FMC, Cora, has a brother-in-law named Dean, and they have a history of not getting along and not liking each other. However, they end up both getting kidnapped by the same guy and getting forced to do some very disgusting things with each other. Then they end up getting released, and we kind of get to see a trauma bond build between the two, and then it kind of just goes on from there. Check your trigger warnings. This is definitely a dark romance, but it is such a beautiful story, and I love it.